You say? My goodness. And Bolivia, I know. What Syngenta once called the Republic of Soy. That's Syngenta. That was many years ago. Colombia wasn't included in that. If it's also true in Colombia, you see how this disease is spreading everywhere. In Paraguay, indigenous people live on the rubbish dump in Asunción because they have nothing else. They've been driven off their land. In Paraguay, again, the same thing. People not able to grow their own crops because pesticide drift from the aerial spraying that happens every single day is affecting their crops and their animals. And in a sense, we are responsible for that. Because we've taken on a food chain about which we have not asked enough questions. The same is true in Brazil, to some extent. Brazil is a contradiction in many ways. There is non-GM soya in Brazil, and we'll come to that in a moment. But in the south of Brazil, they grow a lot of GM. In fact, it was Brazilian farmers who first went to Paraguay and Argentina and started to grow it there. Now they're growing it in massive quantities in Brazil. And Brazil, which is an extraordinary country with much diversity and with very good agriculture in some places, Brazil has taken the first step towards two very dangerous developments in this whole field. One of them is Terminator technology. Brazil is discussing whether to agree on Terminator technology being permitted. A colleague of mine who works, my colleague Ricardo, who works on Terminator technology back in the past, said they weren't able to string it together to make it work. But it sends a signal out to the world, and if it doesn't work, that will be even worse if it works in a piecemeal manner. The idea is suicide seeds, seeds that will not grow if you put them in the soil. What kind of violence and violation is that? It's just extraordinary what they're planning for us. And the other thing that Brazil is doing is it's planning to introduce seeds that are tolerant of 2,4-D. If any of you remember the name 2,4-D, and why the hell should you? There's another one called 2,4,5-T, which is produced by Monsanto, and 2,4-D by Dow Chemical. Put together, it makes Agent Orange, which was sprayed everywhere in Vietnam, as you know. Everywhere in Vietnam. And one of the impacts that it had that is not talked about so much is it helped to destroy small-scale agriculture in Vietnam. It not only left a huge legacy of injured and dead people and destroyed forests, but it also destroyed food production. So that is one of the things that is being thought of now. And if this is allowed to happen, we'll probably get animal feed from crops that had been sprayed with glyphosate, glufosinate and 2,4-D, and whose pesticide drift has destroyed small-scale agriculture that's not GM. So you see it hits both ways. It's a really terrible nexus of things that's coming this way if we don't resist it. In the United States, they're already thinking of that with 2,4-D. And in the United States, they have a huge problem, as they do in Argentina, of weed resistance. This is why they're producing all these new herbicides. This model doesn't work. It doesn't work on its own terms. It doesn't work on our terms. It's not good for anybody. It's a failure. But they don't want to admit it. Instead of admitting it, they want to make us take that system now. Anyone who hasn't experienced it, they want to take that.